had them online before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them online before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line up that we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for their prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all line before I dial up. How they came and they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they came and they on top when I'm a mile up.
What's up, y'all? I am back, Jackie Luqman, here in Luqman Nation on Black Power Media. Luqman Nation, the most dangerous show on social media, on the most dangerous platform on social media anywhere. I had a really good time hanging out with Jared this morning, and I hope you all did too. And I know you were not expecting to see me again today, but we just didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time to get into all the stuff we wanted to get into. And that's cool. I mean, because that's why we all have different shows on this platform. And, why we're always on each other's stuff. So I appreciate, Jared having me on this morning. And as much as I'm going to be on the Remix Morning Show as much as I can, because obviously I'm not working from home anymore, so I can't just hop on in the morning and do, I'm back in the studio and everything. So, but I'll be on as much as I can. But as always, we here in Luqman Nation have our own thoughts, our own ideas about a whole lot of stuff. And there's never enough time to talk about everything that we all want to talk about. So that's why we have our own thing here. So I'm glad y'all are able to hop on. Thank you. Let me go over here to the comments. Thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate that. Look, I would love to be able to do this all the time, just hang out with y'all every day, all day. But like we said earlier on Jared's show, look, we understand people got to make a living. I got to make a living. I got to pay this mortgage. I got to pay these bills. So we have jobs. We ain't free yet. So we still got to do what we have to do and, to take care of ourselves. And maybe, four-legged Luqman over here is going to make another appearance, because he gets annoyed when I don't pay attention to him when I'm talking to other people. So he likes to have all the attention. So I'll try to let y'all see him when he comes over here and tries to bum rush the show, as it were. But really appreciated the conversation we had earlier about some of the stuff about that other show that I won't mention, because I know y'all tired of talking about it. But I felt like the capitalist stuff that people aren't paying attention to really needed to be discussed. So I appreciated Jared giving me the space to air my views about that. Kim Brown is in the comments talking about my dog, man, just like a real man. Bum rushing the show. He do be acting like that. But shout out to Kim. All right, so I really wanted to have this conversation about Candyman because it's a really good movie. It is a very good movie. And I saw in the chat from earlier this morning that y'all wanted to talk more about Candyman. So yeah, because I think there are so many themes in that movie that I think people are kind of afraid to deal with. But I don't care. So I think we're just going to deal with him. So let me share the screen here of the piece that I did write. I did write a review for the movie, which I kind of do now a little bit for a publication called Toward Freedom. Uh, and this was actually, I think, the first or second review I did for them, which was very interesting. And I was kind of tickled that that Jared referenced it because I wrote it and I was like, okay, well, I wrote a little review, so I was really excited when Jared read my review and dug it, so that I was very excited about that, and very, very appreciative that it was read and appreciated by him. And we talked about this part earlier today, the where we talked about the juxtaposition of the streets in Old Cabrini Green, in the neighborhood that used to be Cabrini Green in Chicago, Mohawk Street and Locust Street, that are real streets in that neighborhood, and how that is a representation of the neighborhood of Cabrini Green, the working class and poor people that are no longer in that area, that has been gentrified, and how Mohawk Street is a representation of some of the indigenous tribes who, even though, yes, the tribes, many members of those tribes still exist, we're talking about millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, of indigenous people who were slaughtered and whose entire societies have been relegated to the margins, to the far margins of society, and they've been greatly weakened by the by settler colonialism, and how gentrification is like modern day settler colonialism. And if you think about it, the way settler colonialism and gentrification play out, it's like this plague of locusts coming in and snatching up everything that is yours and destroying everything that is yours that belong to the indigenous communities, and destroying those things and replacing them with something for the settler colonists, and replacing them, in regard to gentrification, replacing them with things that the gentrifiers like, right? So it's like that plague of locust, kind of biblical. And I caught that as I was watching the movie, sitting there like, whoa, I wonder if that was intentional, something that the director Nia DaCosta, a black woman, did intentionally. And I had not read anything about her other than I knew who she was, and I knew that this was a Jordan Peele produced movie. And I hadn't read anything she said in any of her commentary about what she was trying to do with the movie. So when I was sitting there watching it, I caught this immediately, and I was hoping that I wasn't reaching in that representation that was made with that opening scene. And I was not, because as we talked about this morning on Jared's show, she intentionally made that reference with that scene. So I thought that was really, really great. And before I go any further, let me thank Matt Hodell so much for becoming a new member. Thanks for becoming a member of Black Power Media on YouTube. Appreciate you, Matt. Welcome to the family. Buckle up. I should tell you that there may be spoilers in this discussion, maybe a few small spoilers. Shout out to Julie Varagese, who is the editor at Toward Freedom, who has given me this opportunity to do these kinds of cool things, film reviews, and I owe you one, and you're going to get it today, Julie. So yeah, so okay, so we talked about that part, and let me see, let me pop this up a little bit so you can see it a little better. Let me say something about the original Candyman. Because people accurately noted in the in the a show this morning with Jared, that the original Candyman, um, there was Candyman in the original movie did kill a lot of black folks. All right. So let me explain the context of the original Candyman compared to this one. First of all, the story comes from a horror writer, quite prolific horror writer, named Clive Barker. And you're gonna have to look up Clive Barker yourself. I used to read a lot of Clive Barker novels. I used to read a lot of horror novels. There's really something. There's something not quite normal with me. I don't know what you want me to say, but I used to dig. I used to read. I had all of Stephen King's books, and even when I wasn't like as politically aware as I am, I would read Stephen King's books and be like, "Dang, this dude sure does like using the word nigga a lot for a white guy." Um, but I understood what he was doing, but as I got older and continued to see how he used those racist tropes in his stories, it's like at some point you can stop making the point that the people you grew up around in New England, in Bangor, Maine, and those kind of places were racist. We get that. You can stop using that, but he just kind of kept doing it. So, I just kind of stopped reading Stephen King stuff. But Clive Barker was one of those authors. Thank you, Vol Vol. Books of Blood, I think was probably the first. Yeah, Barker. I think that was an anthology that Barker wrote, and I think that's where the Candyman story is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vol Vol. But yeah, Clive Barker was one of the horror authors that I became aware of because of Stephen King, because King kind of big upped Clive Barker. And Clive Barker stuff was definitely more gory, like more like horror. Whereas Stephen King stuff was more like psychological terror kind of thing. That's the way I explained it. So you have to understand that the story of Candyman was written by a white guy. Clive Barker was a white horror writer, and his stuff was good. And I thought it was great that he wrote this story that was steeped in um, that had its basis in racist terrorism against Black people, the historical racist terrorism against Black people. But you have to understand the original movie was based off of a Clive Barker story. And so the original movie, I think, was, I can't remember the director. You're gonna have to look this up, but it wasn't like a movie that was directed and written by Black folks. All right, so the perspective of the original movie, if I'm and I honestly have to go back and watch it again because I probably missed some stuff. I think I watched the original Candyman probably 2 years ago. Um, and I've watched a lot of stuff since then, so I'm sure that I'm forgetting some stuff. But if I remember correctly, yes, the original Candyman did kill lots of Black folks, but the premise of the first movie was that this white woman comes in to the neighborhood, to the Cabrini Green neighborhood, to investigate this urban legend of Candyman. And the urban legend was based on, this historical racist terrorism, but also a misunderstood figure because a lot of people that were being targeted by the police as being responsible for the Candyman murders actually didn't do them. So there was this issue of racist police terrorism in the original movie, and right on cue, there is Brewski Lukman being mad. um, yeah, hi. um, and then at some point, Tony Todd, the original Candyman from the original movie, and somebody asked in the Kim Brown, yes, Tony Todd makes an appearance in this movie. I think Nia DaCosta knew very well, and Jordan Peele knew very well that they couldn't make a sequel to the original movie without having Tony Todd in this joint at all. So he does make an appearance, and I thought it was very, very respectfully done the way they did. It was great. So the Candyman character in the original movie tells this white woman who comes into this community to debunk the Candyman myth, right? To debunk this urban legend. And Candyman at some point tells her, because you came in and tried to delegitimize that I exist, now I'm going to have to start killing a bunch of innocent people in order to keep the myth alive. And this is your fault, right? Um, so if I'm please somebody please correct me if that is incorrect, but I think that's what happens in the original movie. It's not that Candyman was just, wantonly running around killing black folks in a movie, because this white woman who had no connection to the community, who really didn't care too much about the people in the community, who didn't really respect the reverence that people in the community had for the urban legend of Candyman, and really were like, don't fuck with that. She came in and like, oh, this is bullshit. But then she gets drawn into this thing, and she has this kind of, which is like this, this is what Hollywood does. She has this kind of, this is this white lady who comes in and has this um weird, like, love fascination with Candyman, the persona, which is also a part of the basis of the urban legend and the trauma that created Candyman. It's a part of the arc of the story of Candyman and how Candyman became the urban legend that is Candyman, right? And it's this forbidden love. This is why the original story that Clive Barker wrote is called The Forbidden, I think. Yes, it is. It's called The Forbidden. So The Forbidden is this, in the original story, in the original movie, this forbidden romance between this white lady and this black guy, right? And that is the basis of the historical racist terrorism against black men that created Candyman. All right. I told you there were going to be some spoilers. All right. So um so this white woman comes in and gets all enthralled with this Candyman persona, but she doesn't have respect for the history. She doesn't have respect for the people in the community. She doesn't have a connection with them, and she's really just there for her own personal means. She wants a story. She wants to debunk this Candyman myth, and she gets drawn in. And I think that um that arc plays throughout the new Candyman in a very interesting kind of typical horror movie plot device, with the teenage kids who do stupid things and are not, also they have no connection to the community. They have no respect for the community. A little teenage girl goes to an art gallery expo, and she gets exposed. A little white teenage girl goes to the art gallery, gets exposed to the Candyman myth, has no connection to the history of the community that the myth comes from, the Cabrini Green neighborhood, has no what do I want to say? She has no investment in the mythology, in the urban legend, in the importance of the mythology. So because of that, she doesn't feel like that she would suffer any repercussions for dismissing the warnings in the urban legend, which is not to get in a mirror and say Candyman's name 5 times, or else you will summon him and he will kill you. That's the urban legend. So she does it, right? And in the new movie, it's a very typical, we've seen it so many times, plot device of silly white high school kids doing stupid stuff. But that particular scene is so really, it in itself is so full of social symbolism. Like with the first girl that comes into the bathroom, who is, and I keep telling, there are spoilers, because I don't think I can talk about this movie in the way that I want to talk about it without giving spoilers because it is such a great movie, I think. And on the level of like a horror movie, if you're just rating it as a horror movie, probably not, like maybe not even a 7. But when we're talking about using film to make pretty solid social commentary, I think this movie I think this movie is up there, pretty it's up there. I think it's a solid 7 or an 8 in my book anyway. So here's a spoiler. There is a scene, it's typical high school, silly white high school kids doing stuff that they think they're not going to have any that they think are not going to have any repercussions um on them, because they're silly white kids from a privileged neighborhood, ignoring the cultures and the traditions and maybe even the superstitions, if you want to call them that, of a marginalized community. And um the way the scene is set up is that somebody comes into the bathroom before these, somebody is already in the bathroom, and this person represents a manifestation of another manifestation of marginalized communities, of marginalized Black communities, of Black communities that are dismissed by larger white society, especially by privileged white folks with money, white folks with power. It absolutely is an example of bullying in school, and who survives and who doesn't in that scene is very, very, I think, interesting. So I think the original arc of the dismissal of the importance of tradition and urban legend, and even if you want to call them suspicions of marginalized communities, and how settler colonists and gentrifiers come in and dismiss the warnings that are imbued in those things, and how they do that because they have so little respect for the communities they supplant, and how they do, how they can suffer because of their hubris. I think that is an arc that is carried over very well into this film. Um, so y'all hear this dog? He is just trying so hard to get our attention. Come here, Brewski. Come here. So, okay, come on. I don't you probably can't see him because of the way I have the camera set up, but I'm going to try to let y'all see this dog cuz he is just so ugh, he's such a pain in the behind. But let's see. Oh, peek down a little bit. You going to say hi to the people? You're not? He's really just not going to say hi. Okay. So but he's really trying to get my attention. So please forgive me if I'm over here. Stop it. I'm not talking to a ghost. I'm trying to get the So all right. So I do want to get into some of the things that I did kind of try to lay out in the piece that I wrote for Beyond Freedom. Oh, people are like, "Oh my God, I can't see Brewski." Okay, fine, fine, fine. Oh, let's see if I can show you this dog. Where you at? There you are. See, there he is. Hey, y'all. Say hi, Brewski. Hello, dog. Hello. Say hi to the people. There he is. I hope y'all can see him, cause woo, he getting on my nerves. There he is. There's your dog. And he's just mad because I'm paying more attention to y'all than I'm paying right to him right now. So there you go. Y'all get your Brewski fix. He is a big boy. He's 90. And he might as well say he's 100 pounds. He is a big old boy. He's a big old baby. All right, so there's your brewski fix. There you go. You cut it out. All right, so all right, I do want to get into some of the stuff that I dug into a little bit in the piece that I wrote for Beyond Freedom. So let me y'all got your brewski fix? I hope you did. So let me dig into this a little bit more. Brewski is a bull mastiff bulldog mix, or at least that's what the people at the animal shelter thought. They're not really sure. He's a big old mutt, basically. You know, he's our baby, and yes, he is spoiled. We spoiled him terribly. Okay, so let's get some more into this movie because I think it's a really great movie. When we're talking about gentrification, I think it's great that the people at the center of this movie is not this time a white person as it was in the first movie, right? Because we have to understand that the first movie was about the it was about Candyman and his interaction with this white lady. Right? That's what it was. Because that's what the story was about. That's what the original story was about. So it's great that Nia DaCosta made this movie about the importance of Candyman in the community that the urban legend resides in and came out of. And had events in the movie not been presented, this movie, the current Candyman, not been presented the way they were, the urban legend would have died out, right? So they didn't, because this artist, who is Anthony, who is played by, let me go back and tell you who the artists, who the people are who play these characters. Yahya Abdul Mateen II plays Anthony McCoy, who is the main male lead. He is the male lead in this character. He is an artist. He's also living in the gentrified area of what used to be Cabrini Green. He and his partner. All right. So he is the one who's standing at the Cabrini Green neighborhood. He wants to find out more about this neighborhood because he's an artist and he's looking for some new inspiration, some new ideas, and he had not heard about the Candyman urban legend until he gets told the story. And him being an artist and him being a black man in a relationship with a black woman and hearing this story from a black man who is also gay and having in a relationship himself, they all play a part in the unfolding. I wouldn't say yes, they all play a part in the unfolding plot, but they also all play a part in what I think are some of the themes that are being conveyed in this movie that are very, very important. Uh, Anthony, the artist, is living with his girlfriend, his partner, Tiana Paris, in gentrified Cabrini Green. They live in one of these trendy lofts, and the contradictions of young black artists living in a gentrified area in Cabrini Green is raised by the character Anthony, um, in conversations with a white person, and he talks very candidly and very openly and very accurately about how white people, how the ruling class use black people in their gentrification scheme. I'm not going to tell you everything that was said. You just got to watch the movie. It's a very, very good scene. It is streaming now. I think it is on Vudu, VUDU, that used to be Walmart's Walmart.com streaming service, and I think it still might be Walmart.com streaming service. It is also in theaters, but I think it is on Amazon Prime. But I know that it's on Vudu, VUDU.com, and that is Walmart's streaming service. So, I mean, pick your poison, Amazon or Walmart. I choose one. Um, and I completely understand. Sugar Booger, that not going into theaters. I feel you. I absolutely do. And let me announce that my little brother is up in this piece right now. Cleovis Malone III. Big up for my little brother, hard working truck driving man. I love you, bro. Thank you for hanging out with your sis running her mouth today. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see you. All right, so look, there is something I really want to say about this movie, about relationships, about black folks in relationships and how we deal with trauma in our relationships, which I think, other than the respect for black culture, indigenous culture and traditions that are ignored and dismissed and really thrown away and used for profit by settler colonists and gentrifiers, the same people, I think is also a very important theme in this movie. And I think this is the part that people really don't want to talk about because it's so uncomfortable, but I think it's very important. Because obviously, when we know what the history that created Candyman is, right? And you're just going to have to watch the movie to understand this history. You recognize that there is a level of trauma that comes from that history. It's like 400, 500 years of racist terrorism, violence, and oppression. And the people who are the subjects of that cannot come away from that without some serious mental and emotional scars. Um, and this is where the transformation and trauma of being the carriers of that epigenerational or that epigenetic trauma plays out in this movie, I think. And it does it in a way that I think is fascinating to me. Because here I say that Anthony slowly transforms into something. And it's his physical transformation that coincides with what seems like the fraying of his mental state. And I think this is intentionally done by Nia DaCosta. I hope it is. And in a scene where Anthony attempts to protect his partner from something that he doesn't understand is happening, but he knows something bad is happening to him, but he can't figure it out. But he knows that he does not want to hurt his partner, but she misunderstands his actions and sees it as a threat to her. And so does her brother, who is gay and is in a relationship with someone who even his sister says, well, this guy that he is with is a huge improvement. She tells this to Anthony, even as Anthony is on the receiving end of really shitty treatment from Brianna's brother, because he's an artist and he's living off this. He's another black man living off this black woman. That trope is, I think, intentionally um, put into this interaction between these three people. You've got the black man who is an artist, and look, art is a vocation. All of us cannot express ourselves artistically. That's a talent. And here, this black man is, who has been able to profit off of his art previously, but because the people who control the art world are white, they're capitalists, they don't understand black people and indigenous people and the way we express art. They want something other than what we produce, and it's never good enough. So now Anthony is in a position where he's not making as much money, on his art as he was before. He's getting pressured by this studio manager, whatever he is, this white guy, to produce something fresh and something new. He learns about the Candyman legend from his partner's brother, who himself is in a relationship now that his own sister says is way better than the people that her brother was in relationship with before. But the same guy who was in all these shitty relationships with these men previously is now feeling like he's free to dump on his sister's man because he's not making enough money, and he's accusing him of living off his sister. So I thought that was a very, very interesting like interplay between the levels, the different kinds of relationships that we interact with in our communities, and how we unknowingly sometimes perpetuate stereotypes of each other, right? In these relationships. Like, we get to a place where we're in a good relationship with someone, whether we're gay or not, and it's like, oh, well, I can shit on this other person because look, I'm doing well now. And that, so I mean, I felt like that was kind of brilliant. The way that was done, how, that this was just another one of those tropes of, black man living off of black women, when that wasn't the case, you know? So at this point, Anthony begins he begins to investigate the Candyman urban legend, and I'm trying not to give you everything in the movie as we're talking about these themes. And he gets exposed to things that he didn't know before. He starts this transformation, and the brother and the sister, who we find out a little bit later have reason to be protective of each other in the face of mental trauma, but they're not being loving because of the way one of them suppresses the way they were exposed to mental trauma. And that's another interesting aspect of this movie. But this is where I think the theme is very important about the lasting effects of trauma and the unaddressed mental illness among Black people, and particularly how Black men are misunderstood or ignored when they suffer mental health crises and trauma. This is how that whole theme, I think, plays out in this movie. Because what happens is that there is a flashback in the movie that Brianna is confronted with, that she dissociated herself from. And it's not sexual abuse, but there is a flashback that she is confronted with by her brother, who wants to deal with the issues that they faced as a child, but Brianna does not want to deal with those issues. And because she refuses to deal with those issues, and as I say in my piece, she focuses more on moving up in her career than her partner's growing difficulties, which do manifest themselves as like a mental breakdown. But she just wants to move up. And because of her negative experience that's she experienced early in life and didn't deal with, she sees her partner's mental deterioration as a threat to her, and she's not understanding of him. So there's a very pivotal scene in the movie where he's clearly physically breaking down, mentally breaking down, and instead of choosing, I am going to make sure my man is okay, she chooses her path at that point. All right, I'm going to say that much. And it is not making sure her man is okay, because he's clearly not. It is clearly being horrified that he is ruining her chances for her come up, right? So I think that's a very important theme in this movie. And this is not to say um, that this theme is to condemn either black men or black women or gay men or no, I think this this theme that is exposed in this movie is just a reflection of how we sometimes interact with each other and what it looks like, and we don't even realize how we are quite literally leaving our people out there to die, right? Leaving our people out there to deal with things that they don't understand by themselves, and leaving them at the mercy of forces that are bigger than them and beyond them. So that's what I think about that. So I talked about that, to Brianna's brother, whose name is Troy, in the movie, talking about the black man living off a black woman trope, um, and so this I think is very important. I think there are a lot of really important things in this movie. I'm going to keep saying it. I really do think there are a lot of really important things in this movie, and I probably have to watch it again just to catch all of it, because I'm sure that I missed some things. But I think the fact that a lot of the first part of the movie deals with Anthony's transmogrification, and it happens in front of mirrors because of the urban legend of Candyman, that you have to stand in front of a mirror and say his name 5 times, and then he appears and he kills you. But I also think that the scene where Anthony realizes what is happening to him, it happens where it does, because that is significant, where he is, because he is in a particular person's apartment and he has a conversation with this person. And when he realizes what is happening, that is a very pivotal moment in this movie. But I think the fact that when Anthony realizes that what he's seeing is real, then instead of this being a horror movie plot device, what I think it reflects is this deep realization, or this deep reflection of what happens in black people's souls and black men's souls in particular, living in a white society, a white supremacist system that loves their culture, loves their swag, loves their art, loves everything black men in particular produce, but does not love them, and doesn't hesitate to express that, how much this society hates black men, and expresses that hatred in incredibly violent and inhumane ways. And then this society is shocked and surprised when black men express what's been poured into them by that society, right? So I felt like this scene, this one particular scene where Anthony gets what's happening to him, and in one moment he is horrified, but in another moment you can kind of see where he's like, oh, well, fuck it, let's just roll with this then. And in that moment it's like, and this is where, Jared and I were talking earlier about um this movie being um uh a an argument for revolutionary violence, because the conversation that happens, that Anthony is involved in before he makes that realization of what's going on with him, that's where that argument for revolutionary violence comes into fuller view and focus, where you see Anthony like, oh, is this what's really happening? Okay, so then let's let that happen. Then let's let this happen. And this is what happens when you don't listen to reason. When we try to reason with you, and all we've got is what you've poured into us. All right, so I'm going to stop talking about that because I don't want to give away the whole thing. And I think that was actually a great scene in the movie. In as far as like horror movie uh, kills are concerned, I thought that was a well shot movie, a well shot scene. Very very pivotal scene in the movie though. Clearly, the long history of racist violence against black men, the way it's laid out in the new Candyman, I think is very very cleverly done, and it's done with like shadow puppets. And if you are trained like to do like you do, like I do, because we watch so many doggone Marvel movies. You stay throughout the whole all the credits, and you see more of the shadow puppetry and the story behind uh all the different iterations of Candyman, right? And it's really, I think, brilliantly done, a brilliant way to convey this long history of gruesome, hateful, violent, racist, uh excuse me, inhumanity and brutality against black men, black women, and black children in particular, without the blood and the violence, without the blood and the gore. Um, and I think that made it even more terrifying, um, in a way that you got the brutality and the viciousness from the shadow puppets. It just made it more creepy to me. And I think when you see the whole arc of this violence against black people, what you come away with is this question. Um, and that is Candyman the monster? Is he the scary thing? Or is the monster what created Candyman? Right? So which is more terrifying? Uh so I think that was really, really well done. And a few things that I thought were very good um issues that were raised in the movie, the way black society is more accepting, oh I'm sorry, the way society as a whole, not just black society, forgive me, the way society as a whole is more accepting of black women's efforts to climb the ladder, and how easily the same society dismiss black men as they fall down the ladder, even as they watch. And I think that is a theme that was raised in this movie. And I think it's one of those things that people are really uncomfortable with talking about, because they I think people feel like they don't want to act as if they are pitting black men against black women. And that's true. We have to be very careful that we don't do that. But when I think one of the things the movie does well is to show how the way we interact with each other this way is a result of the trauma we have all internalized. And for those of us um, who have not educated ourselves into the ways this system has traumatized us, and then turns around and uses us against each other, we don't see how, we are so quick to diss black men and to leave black men behind when they start to struggle, because all the tropes that, especially my generation grew up with, the black men ain't shit, and black men are broke, and broke black man can't do nothing for me, and that kind of stuff, and go on to I don't need a man, that kind of thing, and celebrate black girls rock, and then forget about the black men who have been pushed off to the side. But at the same time, as black women, sometimes we are so focused on our own survival that we forget about the fact that we haven't dealt with our own trauma either. So we become confronted, as the Brianna character did, with our need for not only dealing with our own trauma, but also not forgetting that we're not in this struggle alone, right? We are not in this struggle by ourselves. We haven't been indoctrinated and subjected to this trauma by ourselves. Black men have also been subjected to this trauma, and we are the only ones who can save each other in this. And I think that was a big, big theme in this movie, and the way the relationship between Brianna and Anthony played out. I think there was a very important point made about the way our parents felt like they may have been doing the best they thought they could by moving, our folks out the hood, right, into better neighborhoods. And that's fine, but I think the problem is that our parents may have encouraged us to forget where we came from and to forget the people that we left behind in those neighborhoods, that those people were working class and poor, struggling folks who were not struggling because they were terrible people. They were struggling because this system is a terrible system that works every day 24/7 to keep people in that position. And that's interesting because I had a conversation with somebody in the neighborhood doing outreach yesterday about the very same thing that happened in real life yesterday or Saturday. Doing outreach with Pan African Community Action, had the very same conversation with somebody in real life about this. Um, and this person was a security guard and believed, no, nobody's trapped in the hood. You can get out if you want to. You just have to work hard, blah, blah, blah. But we have been indoctrinated to believe that's true so that we can ignore the culpability of the white supremacist capitalist system that does indeed work 24/7 every day to continually oppress people and keep them in this condition. So our parents may have been trying to do the best they knew how by moving us out of a negative environment. True, but the problem was when they told us to forget about where we came from. We are not like those people back in the hood. We are better than them. We have no connection with those people, and forgetting where we come from causes problems for us later on in life when we are confronted with the very white supremacist capitalist system that our parents tried to escape from but didn't give us the tools to deal with. I think that is very well done in this movie, as the toll of keeping that secret trauma like kind of weighed on Anthony's mother, and the connection to the original movie, very, very good in that regard. Obviously, you cannot make a movie about Candyman and history of racist trauma um, without talking about racist police violence, because yeah, that's a theme throughout this movie. If we're talking about slave patrols, if we're talking about lynch mobs, if we're talking about modern day cops and racist police terrorism as we know today, the way the police will pin murders that happen in our community on people who are absolutely innocent, um, and how the system uses, once again, black women against black men. And so there is another turning point in this movie in the context of racist police violence, where Brianna has to come to terms with the fact that Anthony was Anthony needed her and she left him behind, but now he's the only one who can save her. And she realizes that, and she's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's do this then. And I felt like that was, again, I don't think it was like a condemnation of black women or a condom. I told you there were going to be spoilers. I don't think it was a condemnation of black women. It's not a condemnation of black men. I think it was a very well done kind of reflection of the way our interpersonal personal relationships have been completely fucked up by the trauma that we have not dealt with well, that we have been um, indoctrinated to believe hasn't been done to us, but has absolutely been done to us. But we've been told that it's all our fault. We believe this, oh, black men ain't shit, bullshit. We believe, oh, black women are trifling, bullshit. We believe that because that's how this system indoctrinates us to interact with each other, so this system can use us against each other to pick each other off, right? So everybody comes to this realization at the end that, oh, we can't do this. And I think it was beautiful. And at the end is where all of the themes come full circle, I think. And the argument for revolutionary violence is made crystal clear. I think there is an aspect in this movie where people have to be careful about the way we want to hold on to culture, or that we hold on to the way that we want to hold on to our culture, so that we're not becoming monsters ourselves in a way, and that we're not like upholding like the worst parts of things. It's sort of and maybe I'm reading too much into that part, but maybe that was just one of those really good horror movie plot devices in this joint. I'm trying so hard not to give away everything um, in the movie, because I think it's a fun watch. Um, but I think that it is a fun, scary movie watch that is also woven throughout the movie with some very, very important themes that are only supposed to be important. Oh, this is something I just real I something I think I just thought of. Like, a lot of the white people that I see who watch this movie, and I made this point in this review, that a lot of the white people who watch the new Candyman are like, oh my God, I hate this. That, it's so political. These people are fucking stupid, because the first movie is actually political. It's very political. So that lets me know that they didn't see the first Candyman, and if they did, they were too young to really understand what the hell they were watching, and that's fine. But don't give me this bullshit about it's too political and that's why you hated it. No, the first movie was political, as was the original story that the movie was based on. That's a disingenuous, typical, white people, I don't want to deal with history argument. That's what that, this is too political foolishness is. Um, but I think that there is there are themes in this movie, and I think we're going to get to yeah, I'm at the end of my little review, which I'm kind of proud of, actually. um and I'm going to play the trailer for you in a minute. um I think there are the themes that I picked up on, which I hope I'm right on most of them. And again, it's subjective, so I could be completely off on a lot of them. And maybe I'm projecting a lot of my personal opinions and biases and feelings onto what I think somebody was trying to convey in a movie. But which is what happens, with a good movie. It's supposed to make you feel things and think things, right? Even if it's a horror movie, I think. Um, but I think that there are some things in this movie that only Black people who are honest about our conditions will get. Right? So I think there are some themes that I think we talked about today that I don't expect white people to get. And I don't think they were for white people to get. I think maybe if white people really want to know, I mean, if we feel like it, we can explain it to them. But I really do think that the themes that we talked about, especially the interpersonal relationship themes, I think those were for us, and I'm cool with that. I'm really cool with that, and I appreciate that. that Nia DaCosta, I think, did that so well. And I do like that the film ended with a very good argument for revolutionary violence, which at the end of the day is only self defense. That's what it is. When you have a system that has been killing and maiming and imprisoning and brutalizing and raping and terrorizing and stealing and plundering your people, your women, your men, your children, and then psychologically terrorizing all of you to and using us against each other so that the same system can continue to pick us off one by one. I mean, that what else do you can't reason with that system. All you have left is self-defense. That's a violent system that you cannot reason with. So I think that there are some themes in this movie that can only be um, understood and contextualized from the experience of Black people who understand them. But I think the argument for I don't even want to call it revolutionary violence. I just think it's self defense against a violent system. That I think that's the only that's all we have left. And I think this is something that's been said by revolutionary people for quite some time. So let me see if I can share the screen so you can see the trailer. And I want to make sure I got the cute little share tab audio um, button clicked.
The urban legend is if you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and it kills you.
Who would do that?
Candyman. 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 Candyman.
Well, we're still alive. Let's go. Gina, you broke the door. This isn't funny!
I feel really connected to this neighborhood. Cabrini Green was the projects. And I just moved in around the corner.
The old candy factory.
I'm an artist.
You're looking for Candyman. He's the monster that's part of this neighborhood.
Why are you drawn to this?
I'm hoping to spread the story all about Candyman. The mirror invites you to summon him. You should say his name. I dare you.
Candyman.
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 She said,
Don't say that.
don't say that.
I think I made a mistake. I brought him back.
Candyman isn't real!
Something's happening to me.
He had a purpose for you to be another one of his terrible stories.
I guess he found me. I am the writing on the wall. The sweet smell of blood. Be my victim.
This is not real. It's not real.
Yep. So yeah. So I do love that she was like, shh, don't say that. You know, Black women are serious when we're like, when we start clapping, shut the hell up. That's so I think that was one of the moments when I really appreciated that the script writer really got us, I think. So I don't know what y'all think. I've been running my mouth for a whole hour now, and I had my big old glass of tea and didn't. So what do y'all think? What do you think of it? For those of you who've seen the movie, what do you think of the themes, that I kind of saw? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And what are your thoughts about Candyman? I get, as I said, as a horror movie by itself, probably, a solid maybe five. But I think the themes are elevated to something more than just a horror movie. So I don't know what y'all think. So um here we go. Kim said that per my review, I will check it. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. I'm really, really interested in seeing what you have to say about it. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, that when that part happened in a movie theater, and like I said to Jared earlier, I was in a movie theater with like a bunch of white people because a friend of a comrade um, rented the theater out, bought the theater out for all of his friends to watch a movie, and they were mostly white people. So I was like one of three black people in the movie, and when that scene happened, I legit laughed out loud because I was like, "Yo, that's my auntie." Like, what did you do? You don't take the Lord's name, and don't you do that. So yeah, I was like the one black person in there, like legit laughing out loud at all the legit black things that happened in the movie. Um, Thanks a lot. Sounds of Saint Elsewhere. Love the movie. Appreciated the review. Brought out more than you initially caught in the first watch. Cool. And I admit I'll probably have to watch it again because there was probably a lot that I missed, and probably just put way too much thought into some things, which I tend to do when I watch television or movies. Um, oh wait, who was in Watchmen? Which one? In Manifesto? Because Watchmen was one of what you mean the series Watchmen or the movie Watchmen? Because the series I kind of dug. The movie I was not. The movie Watchmen was one of Abdus's favorites. I never liked that movie, but I dug the series. So I think you're talking about the series Watchmen. But okay, yeah, because I think he was the husband, right? I think the guy who plays the lead in Candyman was the husband in the series. Yeah. Let's see. Volvo, you are absolutely right. The trailer does not do justice to the movie. Yeah, I think it's a great movie. And look, if you're not into scary movies, I don't like to tell people. I know that horror movies are difficult for a lot of people, and that's fine. I mean, I wouldn't tell you, look, you got to watch this movie because of all these great social commentary. Look, you need to sleep at night. I'm not. Don't make me watch something that's gonna cause you not to sleep. Don't do that. I take sleeping pills. I take sleeping pills because I have insomnia, not because I watch horror movies. That's don't you know. All right. So listen, I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me, talking about this movie, which I really do dig a lot, and I hope it gets a whole lot more life because it is streaming. Kenneth asked a question: was the bathroom kill a revenge thing? I don't think it was. I think, Kenneth, the bathroom kill was an example of, like I said a little bit earlier, of what do I want to say? Of how white people dismiss black culture. They appropriate black culture, even the superstitions, if you want to call it that. They don't have any connection to it. They think it's a joke. They think it's funny. They use it for their entertainment and to get their shits and giggles, and they don't ever think there are going to be repercussions for that. And I think that was an example of that. excuse me, and I think the young lady who came into the bathroom in the clip, if you watch the movie, there are certain in the scene, there are certain aspects of the young black woman who comes into the bathroom that are really important, and I think that reflect the marginalized cultures that these little privileged white girls or these little privileged non-black girls are in the bathroom kind of just having fun with. That's what I think that scene was about. Not revenge, I think, but how the dominant culture just kind of consumes black culture and thinking they can do it for their entertainment without any repercussions. So, oh, not that bathroom kill. Oh, the look back one from the oh. So the one in this movie. Thank you, Kenneth, for that one. Let me put this for the flashback. This is what Jared and I talked about earlier today, where let me try to explain this without giving it away. That was not about revenge. That was the flashback of, I think that was like partially a typical horror movie trope of when you disobey your parents. Right? It's like this is what happens when you disobey the authority, right? But it's also a I think a reflection of how sometimes the older generation does not do a good job of explaining to the younger generation why we do not do some things. So the younger generation is like, oh, well, I'm just going to do it because. So, yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that was revenge. That's just how the urban legend works. And it just so happened in that flashback, that's what happened to a young Anthony. And he suppressed that. You got it? You got it now? So the moving out the hood and forgetting where we came from, and you got it? Okay. So, yes, please. There are what? I don't know how many likes. What is, come on, y'all. It's 43 folks watching this and it's 24 likes. Shame on y'all. Y'all ain't on your job. So yeah, I think that's exactly, I think that's one of the points in that scene in our gray. Because I said so is not a good enough reason. We got to stop doing that. We gotta have conversations with our younger generation about why we do or do not do some of the things that we do. And I think and not like in a spooky way. I think something that happened a in a real life context that happened to me recently. We had a regional meeting of Black Alliance for Peace, and we had some elders in the group, and I do mean, I'm 55. These people were in their 70s, close to 80s, and one of the folks who was bridging that generational and cultural gap for us lovingly took the time to explain to us, okay, we can't move on in this meeting until we recognize, until we understand why we do the things we do, why we sit in a circle in the meetings that we have. We have to reach back to our ancestors and the reason they did these things. Um, and we cannot do this unless we really honor the way that our ancestors did these things in following the steps that our ancestors did. So it was beautiful the way that we bridged this generational gap between the traditions of our ancestors and the practices and the spirituality, really, of our ancestors in the way that we carry on in our communities today. So I think of that when I think about that flashback scene in Candyman in a really odd way. Like, not that, we're drawing on superstitious urban legends, but the older generation has to do a better job lovingly of explaining to the younger generation why we do and believe the things that we do. And now that I think about it, another theme that I forgot about, but the the Candyman, the person that the cops pinned the murders on, who actually he was not doing them. He was actually an older man who came back from the war, who was mentally ill, who had his hand amputated, and he had a hook for a hand, but he was actually not killing people. But again, this was an example of the older generation really not having a lot of compassion and empathy for this man and not protecting him. So he was seen as this threat to the community, and he really was not. So okay, I can't talk about a whole lot of other stuff with it, because I mean I gave y'all enough spoilers. Good lord. I'm hoping. Um, no, that's not. No, that's not why. Because like I just said, the man, the young Anthony encountered in the laundry room was not the actual Candyman. He was not. He was an older man who was mentally ill, and Anthony tells the story. He explains it. That he was a war veteran, came back from the war, had PTSD, had his hand amputated, just happened to have a hook on his hand. So he was blamed for the murders and he was a brother who clearly had problems, but he was not a threat to people. But that's the way people treated him. And he was not protected by the community because he was shunned by his own community because of his mental issues. So I think that was the theme too, where I kind of got my take on how we don't deal well with people who struggle with mental issues in our community. I think I think that's part of where I got that analysis from. And I want to shout out before we go, thank you, Enoch Coalition, for becoming a YouTube member of Black Power Media. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Tell your friends, tell people you don't like about Black Power Media. Hopefully they can learn something and add to the discussion. So, okay, I've said twice now that I'm gonna stop talking about this movie, and I am. So, uh, okay. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little chat. I sure did, because I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a while, and I really do hope that this movie gets a whole lot more play on streaming than it's gotten in theaters, obviously. Excuse me. So I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you hanging out with me. And as always, thanks so much for supporting Black Power Media. If you're not a member, become a member of Black Power Media. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us and support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Black Power Media. You can also support Luke Mon Nation on Patreon, patreon.com/Luke Mon Nation. Share this video, share all the content here on Black Power Media. Always great, thought-provoking stuff. A little bit of something for everybody. I should tell you that there may not be a Luke Mon Nation this Friday and next Friday, because I am going to be out of the country. And I may not be able to connect. I'm not sure. I'm taking my first trip out of the country since the passing of my sweetheart, and just something I need to do for myself. So I'll see what happens, but I'll see what's going to happen. But just letting you know, if you don't see me this Friday, you don't see me next Friday, don't worry. Luke Mon Nation isn't anywhere. Just may not be able to connect, but keep your fingers crossed. I might be able to do something special from Colombia, South America, which I'm very, very excited to be going to. And look, appreciate y'all so much. Have a great day. Have a great Indigenous Peoples Day. Fuck Christopher Columbus. And y'all take care of yourselves. Be very, very good to each other. And we'll see you next time here in Luke Mon Nation on Black Power Media. Peace, everybody. Watch a good movie.
I had them all long before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all long before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for they prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the lead to see what's planted. I had them all line before I dial up.